Good evening. Another episode of Guest with Nazir. As usual, we have our studio guest, and it's a surprise for you. Normally in his life, he has done as a qualification as a chartered surveyor, but he has a very interesting job. That job we will discuss with our guest, and after a few seconds, I will introduce my guest with yourself. Welcome, Adrian.
Thank you.
Could you please tell us about your early career and education?
Oh dear. Early career. My father was was an agricultural auctioneer, so he was selling sheep, cattle, farms, that sort of thing up in the Lake District and North Pennines. So I was brought up in an environment of auctioneering, and I decided, first I wanted to do forestry, and then I decided that I would go into estate agency, surveying. So I went away to study, and during the holidays I would work for the firm that my father worked for, assisting in the auction room, doing chattels, antiques and things like that, but also property, land, buildings, farms and things like that. I didn't get into agricultural. So I went away to study, and I finally got qualified, and I worked very much as a estate agent, as a surveyor, mainly on residential side and property, and with always an interest in auctioneering and selling property as auction. So I had my first auction about just over 30 years ago, selling property in the Law Society Hall in Sheffield, and now I'm the main auctioneer for Mark Jenkinson and Son, and we're one of the leading auctioneers in the area, selling property, residential and commercial property down at the Platinum Suite at Sheffield United Football Ground.
It's a quite interesting role that when the hammer is down, the property is gone. So how you see it?
An auction is the essence of the property market. You've got buyers, you've got sellers, you've got price, you've got a commodity, which is the property, and the auctioneer's role is to regulate and ensure that all parties have had the opportunity of paying the price for the property, and the price that they want to, the maximum they're prepared to go for. And when I bring the gavel down, the hammer, there is in law a legally binding contract on the fall of the hammer. So it's not coming forward and doing the paperwork, that is the contract, it is on the fall of the hammer. So it's a unique thing that I have that I can actually bring about an exchange of contracts equivalent to in legal terms, and bind seller and buyer to a contract.
So it means one sound of hammer is a binding contract?
Yes, yes. I would normally say for the first time, for the second time, for the third and last time, and then bring the gavel down. At that point, there is a legally binding contract between the seller and the person who's made the top bid.
Thank you. And what are the main steps involved if somebody wants to put the property in auction? So what are the main steps for the viewer's point of view or our viewers' interest, how it works?
I always say get the right advice, and I try to be totally and utterly straight with people when I advise them. The starting point with an auction, a potential auction sale, must be to establish the suitability of the property to be sold by auction in the first instance. Many houses and buildings I'm asked to comment on are, in my opinion, too good for auction, and the auction route is ideal for selling properties that need work doing to them. It's for investment, for development, where you're appealing to a cash audience, a cash buyer situation, developers, builders, investors, rather than your, should we say, normal house buyers who need a mortgage, who need to sell their own house and whatsoever.
And what are the benefits of auction sale for the vendor point of view?
From a seller's point of view, it's speed and certainty. You've got an intense marketing period, usually about 3 or 4 weeks, followed by the auction, and in the space of 4 minutes, average, negotiations are concluded from first offer to last offer. And on, as I said before, on the point of the fall of the gavel, there is a contract, so the buyer has the certainty they've got a legally binding contract, a firm completion date, a 10% non-refundable deposit, and a deal that they can then go on and make their plans for their next purchase or whatever.
Thank you. Now we have talked about the procedure. So if somebody has, for sake of argument, has exchanged the contract within the auction room,
yes,
and he or she could not complete the contractual liability. So what are the penalties?
There are, as a lawyer, I'm sure you know these, and it is a serious state of affairs. It's equivalent to exchanging contracts when you're normally buying a house and entering into a deal but not completing. There are legal consequences. The buyer's solicitor, sorry, the seller's solicitor will serve notice to complete, and if after that period of time completion still hasn't taken place, the purchaser can actually lose their 10% deposit, which is, you know, a significant amount of money, could also be sued for the balance if the property is then put back into auction and resold at a later date. So it is a serious affair, and very rarely do deals go wrong. They do occasionally, and there's usually a certain set of circumstances surrounding that, but it's very rare occurrence, but when it does, it is a serious state of affairs. So you should go into buying at auction cautiously with your eyes open.
Thank you. If somebody wants to buy a property in auction, for sake of argument, somebody has liked a lot in the property sale list. So, because sometimes people think that they don't have time for preparation. So what is the quick advice or quick recommendation for them? So if they want to get prepared or ready for this purchase?
There's no mystery in buying at auction. There are some fantastic opportunities for people to buy at auction because of the nature of some of the properties we sell, the circumstances, the types of seller, whether it be council selling assets or repossessions or deceased estate properties, or people just wanting a quick sale where they're prepared to put it in at a very competitive price. So there's no mystery, but my advice is always go into it with your eyes open. Always get advice from your solicitor if you're unsure. Always read the legal pack, which is usually now available online or via a website. And if in doubt, get proper advice. And that's the best advice. And usually we have a 3 to 4 week run-up, which is perfectly adequate to do all checks, as long as, of course, your profession ensure that the legal pack is there in good time. That sometimes they can come in at the last minute, which puts pressure on. But bear in mind, as a first-time auction buyer, if you're entering into the auction arena, you are going to be competing with people who are there every month, who make their money from buying and selling, from developing, from modernising, from building and investing in property. So these are people who are regular auction attenders who will buy every month or bid every month with a view, because it's their livelihood, it's their living. So if you're as a first-time auction buyer, you must appreciate that you're entering into that arena. But the important thing is, if you're looking to buy a house to live in, you may be prepared to compete because you're not doing it as a profit-making venture. You're looking to buy a property to do up and live yourself. So technically, you may be prepared to pay a little bit more, which might mean that you do get the property, because there is potential, the profit element that a builder would look at isn't necessarily there for you. You're just wanting a nice place to live and do up and call home.
If somebody is buying property with mortgage or with loan,
yes.
So of course they need the survey of the property. Can they arrange the survey of the property prior to auction? Yes,
they can. It is difficult, and I think it's very difficult. I sympathise with people looking to get mortgages generally, not just auction property at the moment, but it seems it is becoming increasingly difficult to secure a mortgage for people who are in employment. And so with an auction property, you don't know whether you're going to get it. So you might have an agreement in principle. The building society or bank may send a surveyor to inspect the property, and access is available for the 3 or 4 weeks leading up to the auction date. There is an element of risk there, and you know, I always say, if in doubt, don't bid. If you have the money, if you've been granted the mortgage, absolutely fine, bid. But if in doubt, do not bid for a property on the grounds you hope to get a mortgage.
If somebody wants to buy a property, what are the requirements on the auction day? If he or she coming to auction room, what documentation or what sort of things they should bring with them?
Right, okay. Always read through the important information for bidder section of the catalogue, very important. that will give you an outline of what you need. But on the day of the auction, you will be paying 10% deposit by cheque or banker's draft at the auction room. You'll be usually paying with us a modest administration charge on top of that as well, which enables us things such as getting the legal packs online and things like that. Some people do charge significant amounts, and you do need to be very, very careful that you're not drawn into a contract where you are paying thousands of pounds to the auctioneer or the estate agent on top of the purchase price. And this is something that is a bit of a hot potato at the moment in auctioneering circles, and you need to go into it with your eyes open. So always read the print. But on the day, 10% and ID. We will ask for passport, driving licence, utility bill to ensure that you are who you say you are, and we have to do that by law in terms of checks for ID these days as well.
And in terms of solicitor, can the solicitor attend this auction with them?
Yeah, a solicitor can come along. Again, because the legal packs are online these days, it means that the solicitor can sit behind his desk and actually look over the legal pack online and making any pre-auction inquiries if need be with the seller's solicitor. So it can be done online, but many solicitors do turn up often with their clients, particularly if they're a bit nervous and just want the hand-holding perhaps for the first time.
Is there any property sale? Sometimes people put some percentages that if somebody will successful bidder,
yes,
he or she has to buy or has to pay on the top some percentage.
Yes, I know what you mean. This is quite common, has become common with some of the local authorities who are selling properties where they can't necessarily get their hands on the full capital receipt. If they're selling a school building or a piece of surplus land, a garage site, they can't get their hands on that money. It's got to go into a central pot. So they will charge on top of that an amount to cover legal fees, survey fees and things, which I think is perfectly acceptable as long as it's realistic. But again, check the legal pack, check the auction pack before you bid, and it will be clearly pointed out in there. But in terms of what's loosely referred to as the modern method of auction, where you are paying a significant amount, maybe £5,000-6,000 I came across recently for a very modest purchase, you need to be very careful there, because that's not coming off the price. That is being paid to the auctioneer and the estate agent who is jointly in the in part of the franchise or group or arrangement, should we say. So again, go into it with your eyes open.
Viewers, I hope you're enjoying this conversation. And if you're buying property in any mode, whether it's an auction or a general sale or by way of a standard sale, please make sure you take independent legal advice and also you arrange the survey of the property. This is your own show. If you have any questions, you can email me, and in coming shows, we'll try to answer those questions. Keep watching Sheffield Live. Adrian, what do you think that, is it in property sale, if we'll talk about the auction procedure, is it a 2020 of the property business?
Are you bringing into cricket terms now? No. I don't know. I wouldn't draw the analogy in that. I'm a test man, you know me. Cricket. We both play cricket and love cricket. I think it's exciting. It can be very exciting at times. People can make mistakes. People can get a rush of blood to the head, as with 2020 cricket. So yeah, the analogy is there. I think not quite sure how far we can take it, but it's exciting, pretty like that. It's nerve-wracking, you know. It's trying to win off the last ball sometimes, that last bid, but it is very nerve-wracking, and it can be quite tense, very tense at times as well.
And the people who are arranging bridging finance, so what are guidelines for them if they could not get the mortgage, or in that time frame they could not get the mortgage quickly? So what are the golden principles for them?
Again, as I said to you before, ensure that if there's any doubt about your finances, do not bid. You know, you're getting yourself into a legally binding contract, and if you haven't got the money, it has legal consequences. Some people do offer bridging finance, as advertised in the auction catalogue, for short-term purchase, in order that you can get it across the line, so to speak. You can buy it, you can complete, and then remortgage perhaps in your own time. Generally speaking, bridging finance is expensive, so you need to be careful. Don't get into something you can't afford. and look very, very carefully. And you need to be pretty sure that your traditional means of mortgage, whether it's a buy-to-let or a bank loan or a mortgage, traditional mortgage, there's a good chance that that will be sorted.
So it means it's always ideal that please take financial and legal advice
Yes.
if you are proceeding in this type of contractual liability.
If in doubt, check it out. If in doubt, speak to your solicitor, speak to your finance person, and ensure that you're not being ruled by your heart rather than your mind.
Thank you, quite detailed answer. So the youngsters who are watching this show, if they want to become chartered surveyor, so what are principles for them in life and what kind of subject they should study?
Okay, most of the courses that are available, Sheffield Hallam just up the road, for example, a 4-year course, 1 year in industry, urban estate surveying degree course, and you would then go on to do the RRCS 2 years and your APC. So, you know, from start to finish, it can be, you know, 4, 5, 6 years, 4 years to degree, and then 1 to 2 before you become a chartered surveyor. So, you know, there's a lot involved: economics, geography, maths. You know, there are other areas. It's a subject. It's a thing that you can different disciplines. So in terms of A levels, where to go, what could you do? Well, relevant A levels might include economics, might include geography, might include maths. Psychology is something that I think would be really useful because you're dealing with people and eventually management and staff and things like that. So there's all sorts of things that are helpful, useful subject matter to take into industry with you to apply in the real world.
Apart from this interesting job, what are your hobbies?
My hobbies, I have a passion for fishing. I have a passion for cricket. I love cricket. Music, and things to do with natural history, walking, and I work on my house. I do a lot of work on my own house. So I've got plenty to keep me going with.
And your favorite player?
My favourite player? Oh, you snuck that one in. I was never a good batsman at playing cricket. I was pretty rubbish, in fact, and I used to bowl a bit, but I used to enjoy fielding, and I used to like Jonty Rhodes of South Africa. He was a really exciting fielder, and Paul Collingwood of Durham as well. He was likewise a good, sharp fielder you'd want in your side. So those two, I think, between them. And
your favourite food?
My favourite food? I love food generally. I love seafood. I particularly like Indian food, and if you asked me to choose, I would probably say a good, well-made chicken tikka masala with all the bits that go with it, and a mango lassi to go with it.
Thank you. And favourite place?
Favourite place? This is I've got numerous favourite places, but there is a particular stretch of the River Eden in Cumbria, where I was from originally, that I fish. It's somewhere I never don't like going back to. I've got many memories of people I've been fortunate to fish with, many memories of wildlife I've shared whilst I've been fishing, and the occasional memory of a salmon that's been daft enough to take my fly. So River Eden, Cumbria. Thank you.
And in terms of message for our viewers, what is your message?
I think my message is that there are some great opportunities to buy property at auction, but go into it with your eyes open.
And in terms of charity work, do you have any kind of project you have worked for a charity?
Yeah, I've been. My wife and I have been involved in youth work in our local church for a long time. My wife hasn't been very well, so that's something we're not doing now as much. My wife's also involved with a school out in Africa, an iTuner project, and did go out there a few years ago before she wasn't very well, and we remain involved in that, or she does particularly, and she's got a passion for, as an ex-teacher, a passion for helping children in that particular place.
Thank you very much. Viewers, I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. If you have any feedback, you can email us. My email is shown on your screens. And this was today's Guest with Nazir. Adrian, thank you very much for joining me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
It's a great honor for us that you have joined us today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Nazir. Thank you.